What dire warning from your parents turned out to be bullet? People are going to push you to smoke cigarettes. Everyone I've ever met who smokes and offers me a cigarette says the same thing when I tell them I don't smoke. Good for you. I wish I didn't. My parents are Korean. So fan death. When I leave my fan on at night, I feel so alive. Turning on the lights in the car while driving is illegal. When you press the red button with the triangle in the car, all the doors fall off. That my two choices in life were either Harvard or McDonald's. Sheesh. Bit of a grey area in between those two extremes. I brought you into this world. I can take you out was my mother's favorite saying, but she never even spanked my ass. She's the sweetest lady ever. When we would go to the beach, I would never want to get out of the water, so my mom told me that staying in the water too long would make me waterlogged. She said she could look into my eyes and see the level of water in my system. If the water raised above my iris, that meant I had to get out and let the water drain before I would drown. I believed this for far too long. You can't eat steak that is pink on the inside. That's how you get sick. Believe this till I was about 19, until I learned that it pretty much can be as red in the center as you like so long as it's properly seared. Turned out my mom just didn't like rare steak and felt uncomfortable making it for me and my sister. So she just lied. My mom warned me as a kid that eating the loose pieces of dried ramen from the pack would make me deathly ill. I kept doing it with no problems. One day she said that in front of my dad when I was a teen, and he just gave her this "WTF are you talking about" look. Watching the TV will give you square eyes. When I was 4 years old, I took a mirror down with me whenever I went to watch TV to ensure my eyes had not gone square. 20 years later, they're still round. Complete bullet. Dand is a satanic cult that will lure you in order to offer you up for sacrifice. Lol, no, mom. Gum takes 7 years to digest. This is when I figured out adults lied. Cause I saw it in my poop. Just couldn't tell anybody. Cause I saw it in my poop. That literally any college degree would be a guaranteed job, and the only way to get a job. I graduated in 2008. By the way, if you keep masturbating, you'll go blind. Thoroughly tested and definitively false. People who disobey their parents end up in prison. Every rice left on your plate would be a new pimple on your face. That if I used one brand of shampoo and a different brand of conditioner, that my hair would fall out. Also, when I was 5 or 6, I asked what would happen if you went the opposite way, that you turned the turn signal. My mom told me the car would explode and kill us. Not sure why she told me that. If I cross my eyes, they might end up staying like that. Edit. Disclaimer. Some comments I've received believe this to be true. I'm no expert, but did a quick Google search which also said it was a myth. Cross your eyes at your own risk. I was always skinny growing up, even though a lot of my family is overweight. I also had no interest in physical activities. My parents always used to tell me that if I didn't exercise, I'd start getting fat by the time I was 25. Jokes on them. I didn't start putting on weight until I was 30. If you unscrew your belly button, your bum will fall off. I did my best to avoid screwdrivers for a large part of my childhood because I lacked the willpower not to stuff them into my belly button. I was terrified at the thought of losing my bum, but intrigued by the possibility. We can't pay $1 to go in the haunted house because they might not have a bathroom in there. What if you have to go to the bathroom? Just admit you're cheap, Dad. Someday you're going to have a boss and you will be fired if you speak to them the way you speak to me. First, if a boss ever abused me the way you did, Mom, I'd quit. Second, I have to regularly tell my boss no and that I need her to be more reliable if I am to do the job she wants. Not only do I still have a job, I am constantly praised for the work I do. Edit. It was interesting reading all your stories. I had no idea this was so prevalent. Oh, and thanks for the gold, boss. Pushers will offer you drugs to get you hooked. Not once. Not once. In 36 years of living all over the world has anyone offered me anything unless I sort it out. I was under the impression that drugs would be easy to come by when I got old. Nope. We had to go out and find that. You had to ask people. There was no internet or texting to find a hookup like you lucky kids have now. You had to talk to sketchy dudes. Maybe you'll get your weed. Maybe you'll get shot. It was a toss up. Sniffling kills brain cells. I didn't sniff or snort, even during colds, because I was terrified I would lose my brain cells. Turns out my mom thinks sniffling is annoying and didn't want to hear it. Edit. Gold. I know it's worthless internet points, but I'm so happy my childhood emotional trauma has finally paid off. Thanks. Edit 2. Thank you for the silver. I feel validated. Edit 3. Platinum. Voice. Thank you, kind Redditor. Your generosity keeps my sniffles at bay. People you meet on the internet are swindlers or serial killers. Overall, the amount of people who are out there to get me and should be feared all day round was severely exaggerated. That explained some of my social problems, I guess. That if I kept picking my nose my head would cave in. I would be unemployable if I didn't learn cursive handwriting. Parents and teachers made me think that every job interview would have a cursive test in which they would measure the loops on the L's or something. If you play too many video games you'll have to get little braces on your fingers. Mom, the kid at the cash register at the grocery store had them because he played too many video games. Men from the internet are pedophiles and will kidnap and abuse you. Nah, turns out the rapist was a boy from my church who my mother thought was dreamy. And the people on the internet were the only ones who believed me. Edit. To those who are asking if I'm okay now, I am. Crisis hotlines and women's centers. If there's one thing I can ask of those who read this comment, it's to remember these stories when you're forming your opinions about trigger warnings. A trigger warning content warning gives me a split second to get my head together before I read something. And it allows me to engage with content with far fewer flashbacks. I still want to engage in challenging, difficult content, but the warning helps. Your passion and talent for art, games, web design, and photo manipulation won't make you any money. Go to college for something that will get you an actual career, like psychology. I graduated high school in 2007. I wanted to go to a particular college of art and design for game design or industrial and product design. But I listened to their advice instead. They were very wrong. You won't walk around life with a calculator in your pocket. Edit. My first gold. We did it, Reddit. Thank you. My mom would always tell me take that look off your face or it will freeze like that when I was little. I took that as fact. I really wanted dimples like my friend down the street, so I would sit in my room with pencil erasers pushed into my cheeks forever. No dimples still. I was born left-handed. My pops used to smack the it out of me if I used my left hand, in essence forcing me to be right-handed. I had to constantly remind myself to use the hand with my birthmark to avoid smacks. As an adult I asked my pops why he forced me to be right-handed, and he gave some tepid response about when you're left-handed you'll have a tendency to pull that way when you're driving, exposing you to oncoming traffic. Sounded like bullets to me. And as confirmed by all the left-hand driver is the world that don't spontaneously drive into oncoming traffic. If anyone has any ideas I'd love to know. For reference, my pops is an old school Vietnamese dude. I feel like it's a cultural thing, but I was raised American and have no ducking idea. The world should have ended in 2012. That if I ever told anyone about the abuse, I'd be taken away from them, put in a foster family, and that my foster family would abuse me to death, decapitate me, and throw my head in the canal. Oh, and that the only reason why my parents didn't do the same was because they loved me. That's why my mom only beat the it out of me every day instead of raping and murdering me. In reality, when telling people about the abuse, it's hard enough to get them to believe me, let alone do something, and I probably would have been much better off in foster care. Getting less than 90% in school will make me a trash man and live a very miserable life. Edit. When I saw 100 messages on my phone I thought it was my WhatsApp. Holy damn, I was surprised that it was Reddit. And no, they're not Asians, they're Egyptians. My ex-stepdad owned a restaurant where I worked as a busboy when I was a teenager. He was always very tough on me, berating my work, etc. while telling me that he was going easy on me, and when I got a job in the real world, his favorite phrase, "My bosses would be so much tougher on me." I quit a month before my 16th birthday and went to work at the local Dairy Queen and found out he was full of it. My mom left him shortly after that, thankfully. If you get in trouble at school, it will go on your permanent record and ruin your life. Not once has anyone, from college admissions to prospective employers to loan officers, so much as mentioned the legendary permanent record. Watching TV will turn your brains into mush. I thought they meant literally. Microwaves will give you cancer. Cell phones will give you cancer. Smart meters will give you cancer. Wi-Fi will give you cancer. Conventionally grown food will give you cancer. Western medicine will give you cancer. Antibiotics will give you cancer. My mom was obsessed with cancer. Edit. Forgot. Sitting near the TV will give you cancer. Then she bought a 12 inches black and white TV. Bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Keep making that face and it'll get stuck like that. Don't get married. You'll regret it. Turns out they're both just assholes who can't get along with anyone. The only thing colleges care about now is which extracurricular activities you're in. So if you don't participate in any, you can just forget about going to college. I never played any sports and never participated in a single club or extracurricular activity and got accepted to every single college I applied to. Don't switch jobs too often. Employers will think you have no loyalty. If you go to that wedding, they will turn you into a lesbian. Joke's on her. I was already sleeping with girls at that point. My mom is convinced that if I don't take all honors and AP classes in high school, I'm going to drop out and not get into college. Whenever I try to drop out of a class, she emails my counselor and tells her to put me back in. Edit. Thanks for all of the supportive replies. I'll make sure to read them all when I get home from school. Boys only want one thing from girls. Be careful in high school. That's all the boys will want to do. Turns out the one thing all the boys I hung out with wanted from me was a turn up playing Pokemon on my Game Boy. After you betrayed me like this and you move to that age, you will never succeed in life. You will not graduate school. You will not work and you will fail. Dad, 8 years ago, on the phone, to 13-year-old me on the day I moved indefinitely to my mother after 9 years of abuse. I work. I graduated school and I did not fail at the stuff he said I was gonna fail at. I might have failed in other things though, but that is another story. If you fap too much, you'll grow hair on hands and God will be disappointed. You'll regret quitting piano lessons. I guess it doesn't sound that dire written out, but my mom's kind of obsessed with musical instruments and was really upset that I didn't want to find a new piano instructor after my last one retired. Anyway, I don't regret it. Kind of wish I could play the guitar, though, but I suppose it's not too late to start. Lots of anecdotes with lots of different opinions in this thread. Guess you can't know if you'll regret quitting something until you already do or don't. That I would be brutally murdered by men here in Texas because I'm bi. No. Dad, they're just creepy assholes most of the time. Another one is that doctors will kill me because I'm an organ donor. One of my favorites is that no one but him and his psycho-witch wife would ever love me, including my own mother. Thank Odin my mother's sane. If you sit too close to the TV, you'll go blind. I've been working in IT in front of a monitor for 20 years now. I'm 41. And still 20/20. I only wish I had a dire warning of any kind. In the late 70s I wanted to buy my first car. It was a 1977 Triumph TR7. It was the most unreliable car I ever owned. My dad later told me that he knew it would be a money pit, and when I asked him why he didn't warn me, he said I should learn from my mistakes. Thanks Dad. Oral sex is dangerous and not pleasurable for either party. Oh my, how very wrong this statement was. Dungeons and Dragons is for devil worshippers. I'm now one of the many nerds devil worshipping. Work hard now and your future will be sorted. Don't talk to strangers on the internet. You'll never get a real job if you have tattoos, piercings. I have tattoos, piercings, and blue hair. I'm also a highly employable medical professional. When I was like ages 13-16, mom used to say things like you won't still be friends with your friends now when you are an adult. And don't worry about that. You won't even know those people in 10 years. I'm now 36 and my best friends, it's a group of like 6 of us, have literally been friends for over 20 years. I am closer to these guys than I am to some family. We are like a brotherhood. Don't sleep with socks, you'll become blind. Before moving away from home, my mom's final advice was drive safe. Call me if you need anything. And no matter how bad it gets, please don't do porn. Don't move to Colorado, it's too cold. 50 degrees yesterday but -20 back home. You have to wait 2 hours after you eat to swim. If you don't, you'll sink. Never get in a car with a stranger. Joke's on you, mom. I've got an app on my phone now to tell strangers I want to get in their car. Your father is a terrible man who will hurt you. No, mom. Just because you had a messy divorce doesn't make him a bad person. I grew up hating him simply because my mother told me to. Around 15 I realized he was a totally chill dude and she probably made up most of the stuff she said. When I graduated HS I moved in with him. Don't grow your hair long. Girls think it's ugly. Stopped listening last year and every girl I know says they like my hair this long. 6 inches give or take. It used to look so bad. My mom kept dragging me to a great clips where they'd duck up my hair for half an hour and then slam a ton of low quality gel into it. I saw a picture of me last year and cringed at my hair more than the SoundCloud rapper tattoos my friends drew on me with makeup. If you don't wear your seatbelt low across your hips, if the car stops suddenly your seatbelt will push all your organs out of your body through your mouth. Thanks for telling me that as a 6-year-old. Dad, that didn't duck me up at all. Pot will ruin my life. I mean, my life has been ruined, but it wasn't the pot. That gay people will trick me into 6. When I was in college my dad was very concerned about my choice of major and kept reminding me that I need to have career options and I can't just choose a major I like. I need to take a major that I can have a career in. I kept telling him I would and he just wouldn't take that for an answer. I was a double major in computer engineer and computer science with a minor in mathematics. I also went on to get my master's in computer software systems. Also, the only change I made in my major while in college was to switch from a double major in CE and physics to one in CE and CS. I had switched after my first disastrous physics class where the prof used vector algebra even though it was not a prereq and literally 3/4 of the class didn't know how to use it and was failing because he refused to teach it. I later found out that every time he comes up to teach the intro courses the entire department has an enrollment crisis due to dropped majors. He would brag to the class every week or two about how many times he had failed an entire class. Your theater degree will be useless. Itch. I am such a good actor. I have bulleted my way into every job I've ever had. Faked it till I made it. And without my actor training that never would have happened. I'm doing just fine. Don't eat raw cookie dough or you will get worms in your brain. I realized later it was just to keep us from eating it on her while she baked. Took me a while to be able to fully enjoy cookie dough ice cream without her voice in the back of my mind. Thanks, Mom. Not really a warning, but my dad told me I was Princess Poops a lot of Lulu Island. I was maybe 4/5 and went to school bragging about how I was a princess and they better respect my authority. The school called my parents and my dad just about died from laughter. That people will give me drugs to try to get me hooked. Learn math because you won't be walking around with a calculator in your pocket. I'm typing right now on my calculator. Do not swim after you have eaten. My mom spent my entire childhood telling me not to draw on my skin because I would get ink poisoning. I now have a bunch of tattoos and haven't been poisoned yet. Not. I went into a restaurant with my family once as a kid and wouldn't stop habjing off this brass line divider pole they had in there. My grandpa TPL'd me to stop because I was getting fingerprints all over it but I wouldn't listen. So he tells me, you know, if someone comes in here right now and kills someone else with that pole, your fingerprints are gonna be on it and they're gonna think you did it and send you to jail. I immediately started crying. refused to go anywhere near that pole, and grandpa laughed his head off while my mom and grandma scolded him for scaring me. Turns out, fingerprint evidence is somewhat dubious and in this situation likely would never be admissible in court under these circumstances. So the joke's on you, grandpa, you wily old bastard. My dad used to not allow us to eat prawns when we were younger because it would make us stupid. Of course this was a lie, but I think it partly came from this idiom in my language which translates literally into prawn's brain, which means someone who is stupid. The idiom is derived from the fact that the prawn keeps its fecal matter in its head, hence an old wives' tale lead to a prawnless life. My friends ended up ridiculing me the first time I ate it because I thought I wasn't the only one that wasn't allowed to eat prawn when I was younger. Only fart in the bathroom. That's what polite people do. Then I witnessed both my grandmother and my mom farting up a storm in places like the kitchen. Meanwhile I was running to the bathroom every time. Hearing my name screamed in a blood-curdling yell from downstairs like someone just ducking died. Dinner's ready.